P.F. Chang's stir-fried eggplant used to be one of the best things on the menu, and then they took it off. But if you ever loved that dish, I'll show you how to make it at home using the actual ingredients and techniques from the restaurant. It's easier than you think and way cheaper than ordering takeout. The most common question when making this dish at home is what kind of eggplant should you buy? So here are the 3 most common types you'll see in most grocery stores. First up is the rather suggestive-looking Chinese eggplant. This is the variety P.F. Chang's uses to make their stir-fried eggplant, and it's the most common cultivar you'll find in Chinese takeout cuisine. It's typically used because it has a thinner skin and the flesh is a bit sweeter and less bitter than your standard globe eggplant. When you're picking one up at the grocery store, there are a few things you'll want to look for to get the best one. First, a duller skin is generally preferable to the shiny ones, which sometimes indicates that the plant is overripe. Secondly, when you peel back the calyx on the stem end, you'll see a small white area. You want this part to be as white as possible. It typically indicates a better quality vegetable. Lastly, you want to gauge the firmness. You're looking for eggplants that are firm but not hard. If they're too floppy, they're usually past their best buy date. Next up is the Japanese eggplant. These are shorter and stubbier than their Chinese counterparts. Their skin is also a much darker purple, sometimes bordering on black. They're also frequently pixelated due to cultural sensitivities. Japanese eggplants are interchangeable with the Chinese variety, but their flesh is firmer and slightly less sweet. Last up is the globe eggplant. These are the most common type you'll find in nearly every grocery store. I'd reach for these last, but if you can't find the Chinese or Japanese varieties, you can use globe eggplants for this dish. To prepare the eggplant, P.F. Chang's uses a specific shape called an oblique cut. The reason you'll often see this shape with certain vegetables is because it increases the surface area so it cooks more evenly and it creates more space for the sauce to cling to. We'll start by removing the stem end and the blossom end of the eggplant. With most takeout eggplant dishes, they leave the skin on. With Chinese and Japanese eggplants, this is fine. The skin is very thin and a lot of people prefer it that way. But P.F. Chang's does peel it for their stir-fried eggplant, so it's really up to you. Next, you'll want to make a diagonal slice at the bottom that's about 1.5 to 2 inches long. Then you'll roll the eggplant by a quarter turn and make another diagonal slice. The successive quarter turns are why this is also sometimes called a roll cut. Also, when you work your way up to the stem end, try to make your pieces slightly smaller because the flesh is much denser than the blossom end, and they sometimes take a bit longer to cook. When you've done it correctly, your oblique cuts should look like this. If you're dealing with a globe eggplant, it's basically the same process, but you'll need to section the eggplant into quarters before you make the oblique cuts because they're so thick. For the stir-fried eggplant sauce, it's similar to the dark sauce we've made in several other videos with one key difference. We'll be mixing the dark sauce with a sweet and sour blend they call Chang sauce. So here's how to make it. Add a quarter cup of water to a small pot. Next, toss in half a teaspoon of chicken base and a quarter cup of sugar. They use Miner's Original Chicken Base at the restaurant, although any Asian chicken bouillon powder like Knorr or Lee Kum Kee will also work for this step. Now bring the water up to a light simmer over medium heat and whisk until the sugar and chicken base are completely dissolved. Kill the heat, then toss in a quarter cup plus 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of Lee Kum Kee's mushroom-flavored dark soy sauce for color, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. They use Lee Kum Kee's Panda brand in the green bottle at the restaurant, although I recommend the premium oyster sauce because it's just better. And finally, 2 tablespoons of michu rice cooking wine. And if you can't find michu, you can substitute it with shaoxing, which is much more commonly available. Then you'll whisk everything together until all the ingredients are well incorporated. This is P.F. Chang's secret dark sauce they use in a ton of their dishes. To make their Chang sauce, it's super easy. We'll begin by adding a quarter cup of sugar to a small pot. Then pour in 3 tablespoons of white distilled vinegar. Turn on the heat to medium and whisk until the sugar is dissolved and the sauce is clear. This is it. That's how easy it is to make Chang sauce. For the eggplant sauce, all you'll do is add 3 tablespoons of dark sauce to a small bowl. Then toss in 1.5 teaspoons of Chang sauce along with 5 tablespoons of water. Whisk until everything is well combined, and this is P.F. Chang's secret eggplant sauce. If you want to make any of these in advance, you can keep all 3 sauces in the fridge for about a month. The last 2 specialty ingredients we'll need before we start cooking are sambal olek and rehydrated garlic. Sambal olek is an Indonesian chili sauce typically made with chilies, salt, and vinegar. The exact brand P.F. Chang's uses is Hoi Fong, the same people who make sriracha. And I want you to notice, you'll often find these 2 sauces loitering together, sambal olek and chili garlic sauce. Either will work fine for this dish. And really, the only difference is the chili garlic sauce has garlic, but P.F. Chang's uses sambal olek in their stir-fried eggplant. The last thing we'll need to do before cooking is to rehydrate the garlic. P.F. Chang's uses dehydrated minced garlic for most of their stir-fry dishes. You'll find this on the spice aisle, and it'll come in little containers like this. To rehydrate it, you'll pour over some warm water and let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then drain and squeeze the garlic of any excess liquid before using. You can prepare this a few days in advance and keep it in the fridge. You can also use it for anything you'd use fresh garlic for. To cook the eggplant, heat a few cups of neutral oil in a large pot or a wok to 350 degrees. When you're up to temp, toss in 6 cups of the sliced eggplant. You'll want to cook this for 2 minutes or until it's about 60 to 70% done. We're slightly undercooking the eggplant because we'll finish cooking it in the sauce when we stir fry it later. If you overcook it, the eggplant will turn to mush. When it looks good to you, remove the eggplant from the oil and drain it on a wire rack. At the restaurant, after the frying step, they briefly rinse the eggplant under running water to remove the excess oil. But I find this to be unnecessary at home. Still, I like to squeeze the pieces a bit with paper towels because eggplants have a tendency to absorb a lot of oil. If you don't want to go through the hassle of deep frying, you can cook this in a wok, but it's kind of a finicky method. So here's how to do it. You'll begin by heating your wok over medium heat until it starts to lightly smoke. Then squeeze in about a tablespoon of oil and swirl it around until your wok is coated. Then toss in your eggplant and continue cooking until you notice the edges are slightly starting to brown. Because eggplants are so porous, they act like little sponges. They'll absorb all the oil you've added, so you only want to add a bit more when the wok is dry. You want to do this in steps because they can absorb a ton of oil and become way too greasy. Just add as little oil as you can until the eggplants are about 60 to 70% done. It generally takes about 5 to 10 minutes. When you're ready to cook, it's essential to have everything prepared. Because this is a stir-fry dish, it comes together within about a minute or two, so it's not really possible to prepare as you're cooking. We'll begin by heating our wok over medium heat until it starts to lightly smoke. Then squeeze in a bit of oil and swirl it around so it coats the wok. Next, toss in 1 teaspoon of the rehydrated garlic, half a teaspoon of the chili paste, and 2 tablespoons of thinly sliced green onion whites. Stir-fry the aromatics for about 10 seconds or just until they become fragrant. Then pour in the prepared eggplant sauce, bring it up to a simmer, and let it reduce slightly. You only want to reduce it by about 5 to 10%, not much. When the sauce looks good, toss in the cooked eggplant and gently stir it into the sauce until everything is covered and the eggplant is cooked through, but the pieces are still solid. Sprinkle in 1/8 teaspoon of ground white pepper and stir it into the eggplant until it dissolves into the sauce. Then drizzle in a cornstarch slurry. This is just 2 teaspoons of cornstarch mixed with 1 tablespoon of water. And gently turn the eggplant over until the sauce is thickened to your liking. Now turn off the heat and pour in half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. Give the eggplant one last toss to make sure the sesame oil is evenly distributed, and this is it. This is P.F. Chang's discontinued stir-fried eggplant. And very quickly, before the taste test, I want to give you one last tip. Eggplants are notoriously difficult to work with because they're about 90% water and they'll often turn to mush if you overcook them. So one of the things they benefit from is pre-salting them before cooking. What this does is draw out some of the moisture, which makes their flesh more dense and less likely to break down during cooking. This makes the eggplant firmer, which improves their texture. All you'll do is toss them in a bit of salt after you cut them and let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then squeeze them dry with paper towels to get out the excess water. Or an even better method is to mix about 1/4 cup of table salt per liter of water to make a brine and just toss the cut eggplant in the brine for about half an hour. It sounds counterintuitive that soaking an eggplant in water will draw out some of the moisture, but it's actually more efficient than just pre-salting because the saline solution pulls out the excess moisture more effectively than just plain salt. After the soak, you'll drain the eggplant and squeeze them in paper towels to dry them off and proceed with the cooking outlined in the previous steps. Now, let's give it a taste test and see how we did. I know the stir-fried eggplant was a lot of people's favorite side dish at P.F. Chang's, so when I saw they took it off the menu, I knew I had to show you all how to make it. I hope this helps. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out P.F. Chang's Singapore street noodles right here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.